that was it. I posted my keys through the door, off we went. We had dehydrated ourselves so badly at one point that how on earth we've come across it. There was a bottle of water in the middle of nowhere, leaning up against a tree, 2-litre bottle of water in Spain. I was so grateful. It was like the Lord had blessed us on that day. Our tongues, we couldn't even talk.
Hey Kelly, and welcome back.
Today we are starting a series. Hopefully this will be one of interest to a lot of you. It's how to be a nomad in 2025.
Yes.
And we're going to make this a series because there's so much information that we can provide here.
Yep.
But for the record, we do not advocate that you live this way,
No.
really. It's just a case of that in the comments section, we've noticed that there's quite a few of you that are wanting to give it a go. We don't want to feel responsible in any way for people going out there and making mistakes.
No.
You know, you've heard of people climbing mountains in flip-flops. Let's just say that we would like to prepare people as best as possible if they're going to choose to take a path this way.
Or even dip your toes in.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we have held back, should we
Yep.
say, in all of our videos, purely because we didn't want to encourage anybody to do this and fall foul in any way.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a little bit more transparent. There is going to be quite a few episodes to the series because it's going to be quite in depth on what to do, what not to do, what we learn works, what we learn don't work, how to work as a couple, how it works solo, and a few hints and tips,
Yes,
tricks of the trade.
most definitely. Let's have a look, shall we?
Stress, I guess, stress. I had a job where it was long hours. I mean, the pay was okay, but it turned out that it didn't matter how much I earned. I was always stressed out. There was always not a lot of money left at the end of the month. It turns out the more you earn, the more you spend. So it just was very unfulfilling. And I guess I was going through some mental health at the time. You know, I'm not ashamed to admit it. We all hit some mental meltdowns once in our life at least, right? So I hit a mental meltdown and I was trying to fight my way out of the other side, and my son had just finished school at the time, and I think I've told this story in another video, but he's seen me getting ready for work and saw how miserable I looked, and he said to us, well, I'm going to flip a coin, and if it's heads, then by all means be sensible and go to work, but if it's tails, why don't we just go travelling, just give it all up and just bugger off, change our lives? And I thought, well, that kind of spontaneity I hadn't really got in touch with since having my son, because, you know, it settles you down, doesn't it? It makes you get all sensible. So I really got in touch with his spontaneous attitude, and I thought, well, yeah, let's just do it then. I mean, sometimes life can just change on a whim. So we did that, and it did change on a whim. It was tails, and so that was that. We literally, on that day, so as not to lose momentum, went to a camp shop, kitted ourselves out with the most ridiculous amount of kit. That's another story. And that was it. I posted my keys through the door, off we went. Now I started in the UK for the first few months, and I was trying to get used to learning how to forage, how to trap small game, that sort of thing, just because I knew that I was going to have an income problem. And I had my son with me, and although he was an older teenager, you know, you still feel responsible as a parent. So that was all cool, you know. Eventually we sort of got a handle of it over here in the UK, and then we decided to get on a ferry and go and travel Holland and Spain. Well, not long after, well, during that duration, I hit some real hardships. Now, I could say on my own, but I wasn't really on my own because I had my son with me. But let's just say the whole foraging thing and being able to sustain myself and my son, it was really hard. There were times when we lost so much weight that it looked like we was from a concentration camp. We had dehydrated ourselves so badly at one point that how on earth we've come across it. There was a bottle of water in the middle of nowhere, leaning up against a tree, 2-litre bottle of water in Spain. I was so grateful. It was like the Lord had blessed us on that day. Our tongues, we couldn't even talk. So I was really grateful for that. a lot of mistakes, I guess, were made by being so spontaneous. Well, as my son decided to part ways with me, once we'd hit Spain, and I think he just wanted to get back and be with his friends in the UK. I mean, which was all fine with me. You know, I came back with him, helped get him set up, and then I left again on my own and went back to Spain. It was hard. It was a lot harder even without my son. I mean, you'd think it would be harder with my son because you've got a responsibility there, but it actually wasn't. It was a lot harder on my own. There was so much, so much that I was experiencing that you want to share with somebody, and there's no one there. You know, you see something beautiful or something really magical happens, and there's no one to share the joy with, or even the suffering. You know, so I did find it difficult doing it on my own. I would have definitely have stayed with my home and my job and just done weekend trips out. I mean, I'd never been camping before in my life before I'd done that, apart from one time I went to Glastonbury, didn't work out well, lost my tent. I had 4 days in Glastonbury sleeping in a field. So I didn't, you know, I would have done better if I had have taken baby steps at it, I think, and learned about the outdoors. I had to learn all about plants and what foliage I could eat just on the move, and I think it would have been better if I had pre-planned some of that. Most importantly, to have established a way of having an income before leaving the flat, because that was one hell of a struggle. To have no money and to just live off forageables alone is very hard. It's very hard. There's just not really enough sustenance now that land has all been owned and taken, and it makes foraging and trapping quite a difficult thing to do, especially as a beginner. Don't expect to go out there and to find it all falls in your lap unless you know what you're doing. So yeah, I guess that's what I would have done differently. But I'm glad I took the leap. I don't regret it. I had a lot of hard lessons to learn along the way, but it's what's made me tough at it, I guess. I'm very resilient, I'm very resourceful. So there is something to be said for taking a spontaneous leap, but it's not something that I would advise to anybody else starting it. Unless you've got some stuff under your belt already, then maybe act with a little bit of caution and get your ducks in a row first.
What was your most important piece of kit back then, looking back?
My most important piece of kit? Oh, hey, that was a hard one. Believe it or not, I think whilst I was still in the UK getting to grips with the foraging and the trapping, my most important piece of kit were my 2 little foraging books that I had, which showed me just the basics really. It was just a beginner's guide to foraging. Those books, and I guess the skill set that I'd learned with the trapping of small game. I got very intrinsic with certain traps, setting up certain traps to catch oh deer. Eventually I did get the hang of it, and it did start working for me. So I guess my most important piece of kit at that time, believe it or not, was just 2 little foraging books and my trapping skill set that I'd learned. And I'd already had me little trap sticks and that set up so I could have them in my bag at all times. I would say my knife, but I got through a lot of knives in the beginning. I wasn't very clued up on what were the best knives, and I just thought a knife is a knife, right? Turns out that's not the case. Some are not as hardy wearing as others, and they don't often take well to being battered and being weathered. So I got through a lot of knives, shall we say. I think within the first 3 or 4 months I had about 3 knives. It was that bad. So yeah, I think that's probably, and my Sawyer filter. Yes, my water filter was definitely an essential for me. On the note of kit, let's just say when I first set out, I didn't have my bag that I have now, the Black Hawk hydration pack. I didn't have that. I had one of those typical backpacker bags that are all brightly coloured and quite tall and slim and sit right up here. And yeah, I learnt fast that was a big mistake because I overfilled the thing. I mean, it was only literally recently I watched that film Wild. I can't remember the actress in it, but you could say I looked something like that, and it was Reese Witherspoon, that's it, yeah. But I did look ridiculous, and let's just say it was very hard work putting it on and getting up. Like, I really did identify with that when she goes on her front and just face plants it. Yeah, that was pretty much what I was like. But then every time we stopped and had a camp, I started going through it. Right, I haven't used that. Bin, until in the end I'd reduced it so much that the bag was baggy, and I thought, well, this is better now, right? And but then I realised that I don't need, and also those bags they're not very hard wearing, and they were very hard to fix on the road, on the move. So there was all sorts of problems with those bags. So by the time I'd got myself down to a reasonable amount of kit, I realised it was time to change the bag. And I'd done my research. I researched really hard to find the most hardest wearing, suitable bag I could find. And I've never regretted buying that hydration pack, that Black Hawk. Never regretted it. Had it for 10 years now. It's a long time to have a bag. The stitching hasn't failed me, the zips haven't failed me, the clips haven't failed me. It's perfect. Awesome. But yeah, I guess another tip to give for your setting out is learn how to reduce your kit before you go and take that giant leap and leave everything behind, right? It's really quite important to know what you want, what you want and what you need, because there are some things that are just essential and you're not going to be able to do without. Other things you can make actually on the road, you know. So long as you've got a knife and some creativity skills, you know, you can pretty much sort anything out you might need.
Why did you cut your hair short? Why did you shave it all off?
So yeah, you might have also heard us mention in other videos that when Mod and I first met, I had a shaved head. I know, it sounds a bit extreme. There was a few reasons for that. One reason, it was a bit lame, is that it just saved me the hassle of having to wash and do my hair every day. But more importantly, I found that being a solo female, it was difficult meeting guys on the road because they wouldn't talk to me like a mate, which I kind of needed at the time. It would be more of a, hello, how are you? How are you doing? Right? And I guess I needed people to be on a level with me, because I was either, I just wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in having a relationship at the time, and I certainly weren't interested in the whole dating game, the romance thing, and all that palaver that comes with it. I just wanted to be left alone, to be in the woods and do my thing. And I guess the easiest way to get men to back off from the "how are you doing" was to shave my head. And it did work. I mean, you know, I could have conversations with men where they would just talk to me a little bit more straighter. There weren't any of that chatting up stuff going on. You know, it made it a bit more of a comfortable interaction with people, I guess. Kept people at bay. It wasn't my best look, in fairness. It wasn't my best look. And I don't think it's something that I would do again. Well, unless Mod and I break up, then I probably would do it again, because I wouldn't be interested in dating anybody else, you know. Like, I wasn't even interested in dating when Mod got in touch with me. It was more of a case of he chased me, really, you know. But I'm glad he did, and I'm glad that he won me over, because it's something I would never change for the world. Together we make a great team, and what with an addition of a third child, it makes it all complete, you know.
I don't know, really. I was made homeless, and ended up on a campsite. Being a professional photographer, I had my camera and my gear with me, and I had money in my pocket, so I stayed on this campsite, and somebody turned around and went, "Oh, you're a photographer, you could go and do our functions for us and they'll pay me." So yeah, I decided to do that, and realised that I could make money on the road whilst being homeless, right? So why not? But then plans change, and I got nice little digs at the Sally Army, and living there and supported accommodation sort of thing. and I applied to uni. I went to uni, and I kept on looking back on my life, going, I could live free whilst making money with the skill set that I had. So yeah, whilst I was at uni, I got a flat, and everything was absolutely fine. And then went, nah, sod this. You know, I'm paying like 72 grand for a good education, as it were. Anyway, I finished the course and went about my merry way. I just gave up the flat, piled up all my gear in my 110, 120 litre sack, my ex-forces bag, and knowing in full well and full grace that I could live on the road, done it before, ex-forces, cadets, outdoorsman growing up. I had the skill set behind me, so I had everything completely loaded up. Yeah, that changed over time. But yeah, I suppose that was my leap, you know, watching just the world fall apart, and people not happy, and people getting degrees, you know, law degrees, and not even being able to get an apprenticeship or a job. And I thought, well, with me photography, I can go into teaching, you know, and teach it at the unis and what have you. But for what? For another paycheck, for another brick-built coffin to live in. So I guess because I got struck down with the clots, as you already know, yeah, just wasn't going to die in four walls. So yeah, the pointing fingers of you're homeless, no one really wanting to help me out at my most time of need. Sore shoulders and back from lots of kit. You know, my camera kit alone was probably about 9 kilos. Then with the tripod, another 2 or 3 kilos. But that's what I was trained to do. You take everything for every occasion, every situation. Yeah, always being prepared, be the best, right? And it was just killing me slowly. My feet, my hygiene went to pot because I was on my own. I didn't have anyone, didn't really care if I stank, if my beard grew wild and weird, or my hair was, you know, messed up. It didn't really matter. It was only me that had to smell myself. It was only me that had to look at myself in respect. But hardships, I found out who my real friends were, I guess. That was my biggest sort of hardship. Realising that no one really cared. Family didn't care. They just push you away. But again, I can see why people on the streets and that turn to drink and drugs just to cope, to forget, to disappear. So yeah, I suppose my hardships were a little bit different from Tara's because I didn't really have anything or anyone in respects. Planned. I would have planned a lot more, reduced a hell of a lot of kit. Probably not taken a lot of my camera gear and got it destroyed or chucked it away because it was too heavy, or selling it in the shops. When I could have got myself a decent 1 camera, 1 lens setup, and done that differently. Probably not have gone to uni, you know, because it's more debt and more tax to pay. But no, I think, yeah, differently. Find someone to do it with, plan, someone to bounce off of, ideas. And as Tara said, to enjoy those moments together, to enjoy those views, to enjoy the hard times, the good times, the bad times, the great times. I think that's where I would have changed things, or what I would have done differently, yeah. And probably brushed up on skills, not thinking I knew everything from the army and from cadets and from growing up. I didn't quite do what Tara did and learn online or from books and that. I was just the typical bloke. I know it all. I can get by. It'll be fine. So, but yeah, probably I would have changed my diet as well. Being a man, you know, you're just going to get meat or alcohol, either or, and you start losing teeth because you just don't care. So yeah, a woman is what I would have done differently. Got a woman, a lighter pack to start with, and yeah, learnt more, trained more maybe. When I got with Tara, I was at 18 stone. Then before that I was 22 and a half or 21 and a half, something like that. From the meat, the alcohol, and the slower pace of life, I had the money. You know, I didn't have my hardships like that because I was still earning with the tools that I had. But yeah, it wasn't until I met Tara properly and we got a groove in, did I start to lose weight. You know, being in a healthier mindset.
My great cooking.
Great cooking and all that lot as well. I was actually getting proper greens, and you know, my family go on about, or I say to my family, you know, we've got like a group chat, and they'll put in like potato, pie and beans, and it's all orange or yellow or whatever, and I'm going, we need greens, we need green in there, and we need orange and yellow and brown. And I suppose I've become conscious that if my plate looks colourful, then my gut's going to be colourful, because my gut was never colourful before. It was dull, heavy and horrible. So when people were saying to me in one of our last videos, you know, oh, how do you find time to work out to get these? I used to be fat, and I turned a lot of that fat into muscle living this way. I don't agree with gyms because I feel it's a falsified sort of bulk, an unnecessary bulk and weight to be able to carry around with you. Not only that, is I couldn't fit my sleeping bag properly because I was like that. I couldn't put my arms in. I was like like the Velociraptors or a T-Rex. I couldn't turn over. It made amorous times very difficult for me, and especially like in the summer of heat. You know, I was sweating, I was chafing, where I had to choose different styles of underwear, different styles of clothing, anything I bought, because I was losing weight and I had fat wrinkles and rolls. I was just really uncomfortable and sore and in pain a lot of the time. So living this way and finding love, my body just went, shed it, this is what's going to happen, and it took care of itself. Honestly, it took care of itself. And because it's a two pint or 2 beer limit, you know, I wasn't drinking to excess anymore. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't, you know, paranoid. I wasn't trying to find that oblivion, that hazy state, because now I've got a solid state, I've got stability. And so no, I've not been to the gym, don't like it. Living this way is tough enough, and it's good. It's good, and naturally that's what the body, or my body, has done for me. Become toned and fit, I guess. Awesome. But yeah, the bit of kit I would never do without. Actually, I think I've still got it on me. That inside there is photos of my kids. It's what kept me going. You know, you can pick up a knife from a second-hand shop. You can pick up water from graveyards, people's houses, friends, family, if they're about. But that's the one thing I wouldn't have been without. My kids. You know, so yeah, always got it. But yeah, that's the only thing I wouldn't have been without.
So that was our solo experiences before coming together.
Yeah.
Since being together though, we've had some things that we've had to work out as a couple.
Yeah.
And there's also some stuff that I guess we can go over. This will be in our next, this is going to be a series.
Yes.
A nice series, yeah, of how to, right? But I guess that it will be, the next one is going to be about us discussing what we've learned doing this as a couple as opposed to on our own.
Yeah.
Some of the troubles we've faced, some of the difficulties we've had in developing a relationship whilst living like this.
Yeah, you don't really have a house and different rooms to run away to when you have arguments, or because I've done things my way and you've done things her way.
Yes, we were both set, shall we say, and we had to do the, I guess, the power struggle of who's going to win what.
Yeah.
Really.
You know, that's one of the things we do want to touch up on in the next part of the series is how that power play, or those power struggles, played against one another, played with one another,
Yeah.
of how we managed to adapt, compromise,
And what we had to compromise on, I guess, right?
yeah, most definitely.
And it does change from being solo to be doing it as a couple. I mean, I guess if you're already an established couple, that's different, right? But to actually create a relationship when you've already been doing it as a solo,
Yeah.
there can be some loggerheads, shall we say. Thankfully, we were over most of them now. I mean, I guess every now and then we'll get a teething problem, but it's normally because one of us are trying to dominate a situation.
Yeah.
That's it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a well-oiled machine, or the AI. You got to keep reprogramming it from time to time, or adding a bit more grease and oil to let it run a bit smoother. Yeah, I suppose like when we first got together, wasn't it? You know, Tara was going, well, I do this, and I'm going, well, I do that.
Who's going to win?
And it was a battle. It has been a battle. Don't get us wrong, it has been a real uphill battle. So much like our lifestyle at the moment.
We're both very stubborn people. I think that's the problem. I mean, you know, we have this habit of sticking our heels in the ground and we're not budging for anything.
No, we turn out like the little 4-year-old child on the reins when they just lay on the floor. I'm not moving, and then the mother or the father just lays down on the floor and starts screaming with them. We've had a lot of screaming competitions. We have had a lot of screaming competitions.
But I sometimes think that it works out for the best in that, you know, you scream it out and then you're all out of puff and it's like, oh, should we make up now?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
There you go, dogs over there. You can see them.
I think this is going to be an interesting journey to take you on, because we're going to show you lots of different things, and each episode will be based on another thing.
Yeah, but progressing more and more to the end goal, which is us now. I guess, you know, and how we've managed to survive and thrive within our environment, and with each other.
Yeah.
And the fur baby.
But just to reiterate, as we mentioned in the beginning, this isn't so much like, we don't really advocate for people just coming out and living this way. It takes a certain type of character to do this, I think, and a certain amount of stamina.
She had a stammer there. But yeah, a mindset. It is a mindset. If you're going to be maybe a hairdresser. No, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, if you're the sort of person that looks back a lot and reminisces a lot, then I would say that it's probably going to you'll probably find it a bit harder. We're not the sort of people that dwell on things, so we're always looking forward. You know, we don't tend to look back.
I used to in my solo days. I used to look back a lot.
Oh, I didn't at all. See,
No?
I was quite different. No, I was focused and even when I was almost starving to death, even when I thought I was about to die of dehydration, not once did I think, have I made the right decision? I don't know why. I just thought, well, if I die, I'm in exactly the environment I want to be in. It was almost poetic.
I mean, I suppose I looked back mainly on old times, friends, family, that in sight of hind now only made me feel worse, because you start reminiscing on all those things and all of a sudden you go, do I miss those things? Do I miss those people? Do I miss that way? Because when I was there, I hated it. So yeah, the looking back only served to fuel negativity or negative thoughts, and that thought pattern of oblivion yet again. It's a dangerous cycle.
And I guess on that, as I was trying to say about we're not really advocating that people do this. So it's like I say, it does take a certain type of person, but it's more of a case of, in our comment section, we have noticed that there's quite a few people that have felt inspired to take a try at it.
Yeah.
And I guess for us, we just want to be sure that we don't feel responsible for people throwing themselves into it and making the sorts of mistakes that we did at the time. You know, I guess that if we can give you a bit of a heads up, as much as we would say, you know, don't do this at home, be careful. Again, we're not talking to children. This isn't a children's channel. You know, you're all grown-ups and you're all capable of making your own decisions, but we would just like to be able to give you a little bit of a heads up on what you could consider and what would make your life a little bit smoother doing it this way, you know, by becoming a nomad on foot, I guess.
Don't do what we did.
Yeah, really, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the message we want to send, isn't it? You know, don't do what we did, but we want to be able to take you through that process, so you can decide for yourselves.
We want to show you what works and what don't work. We want to show you some little tips that we're probably not already put into the channel. Yeah. Because we're trying, because we've operated so far on the guise of, we don't want to encourage you to live like us. We're just sharing what we do and how our lifestyle works. So we always kept some stuff back, and I guess that this is our opportunity to
be transparent and
be more transparent, give you the information that would make your ride a bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Anyway, Callie, we'll leave it there. Stay tuned for part 2, and happy hopping.